Baruch Hashem, today's Chaf Tes Elul Shnas Hakel. Today is the 32nd day, Leiv, in the learning of the Hemshech, in the Seder Ayomi, in the Hemshech Hagadol of the Ever Hashab Tafresh Samach Vov, which is Amud Samach Gimel, and Samach Daled in the Samach Vov. So we're in the Maamer Viamer Hashem al Avraham Lech Lecha. We're discussing in the Hemshech Inyanim of the two levels of Ritzonis, the Ratzon Chitzoni and the Ratzon Apnimi. In order to get to the Ratzon Apnimi, the idea of Ru'usa Deliba, which less Machshava Tfisi Beiklal. We cannot reach the Eibishter through any level of Asagas, not even the Dias Ashlila. Only Ru'usa Deliba could reach there, which Ru'usa Deliba is Kabbalah Seil Mamash. In order to achieve Ru'usa Deliba, we have to get there through the Hakdama of B'chol Avavcha, B'chol Nafshecha. So first you have an akdama and davening, the level of Psuk Zimra, Kriya Shema Shema, and then you get to the level of Kabbalah Seil. And we continue discussing this idea that ultimately you get to a level where your mamshech tesefes erdis in Torah itself, you make this idea of Ru'usa Deliba to Vahayu Hadvarim Ha'ela, adding into Torah. And this is what we started discussing yesterday of Kala Nikra B'Shmi V'Lichvoidi, that the Yidden are between the level of the Eibishter and Shmi, that we're mamshich through our avodah to Sefes Eretz in Shmi, which Shmi is the idea of the Gilui Eretz that happened Lamata. Now, we started discussing Berasiv Yitzartiv also, and we'll start here a few lines from the end of Amud Samach Beis. There's also the levels of Berasiv Yitzartiv, which correspond to a level of the Hamshacha coming down. The difference between Bria Yitzir Dua, the Bria B'chinas is Havas Chadash Ayin Liyesh. Bria is the idea of Ayin Liyesh. It's a new Hamshacha of Yitziro Mehelam like Yilu Levad. Yitzir is only revealing something. Like when you form something in metal, you're not creating a new entity with this form. Rather, you're doing it in a specific form, in a specific shape. But it's something from another thing. Another comparison we could do here. Because there were no oisius before you think it. Once you start thinking, you create oisius machshava. And then the kodim machshava lo hayotchila oisius murgashes. Of machshava nischatchu oisius, you renew the idea of oisius. Aval b'dibur, through speech, ein nischatchus. Kim halam alagil, you take the same oisius machshava and you just reveal it b'dibur, different form, like the Chaimer Vitzura, which this is the idea of Bria to Yitzira. Same idea. Chachma creates a new entity, it's a new idea. Bina is developing the Chachma, as he explains. The dot of Chachma is renewal. The Kodim Lozelo Mitzir Seichel Mamash, there was no existence of Seichel. Hani B'Koyach HaMaskil, in the potential of thought. Of Nischad Shlis Mitzir Seichel, and now there's a new level of Seichel in this level Al Kaponim. Baruch Hashem. Chachma me'ayin timotze. Me'ayin liyesh. Chachma is formed from ayin. Shekin koyach bina mekabel me'achachma. Bina comes from chachma. B'chinas yesh v'yesh. The nekudas chachma, this da'at of chachma, keilalas hakol b'elam, has everything concealed. V'helam the chachma, this concealment boli de gilu be'bina. V'zeu ikar ha'efesh min Torah shebechsav v'Torah shebal peh. This is the main difference of Torah shebechsav and Torah shebal peh. Torah shebechsav is b'chinas chachma. Nimshach ayin liyesh ma'atzah tzar and say baruch hu, it's a new entity. V'Torah shebal peh b'chinas bina. V'rak b'chinas gilu b'chinas helam the Torah shebechsav. It's only revealing this idea of Torah shebechsav. L'farish l'var kol mitzvah ksuba b'Torah shebechsav, to explain everything that's in Torah shebechsav. The Zel Brasiv Yitzartiv, back to what we said earlier about Bria Yitzira. Brasiv is Torah shebechsav, which is an ayin liyesh, it creates a new idea. And Yitzartiv is Torah shebechsav, developing the Torah shebechsav. The Koyal Torah shebechsav, Torah shebechsav. Uklolusam nimshach b'firish l'chvoidi. In general, it's l'chvoidi. Kala nikra b'shmi v'lichvoidi. L'chvoidi is the general idea of Torah. Brasiv Yitzartiv is then the way they separate out. Elashin nechlot and beis madreges halam v'giloi. Peter Shafat. So we just explained Kala nikra b'shmi v'lichvoidi. Brasiv Yitzartiv, and the pasuk continues. What we continue saying here is Af Asisiv. I also made it. Through the Neshamas Yisrael. that are between Atzmos and Shmi v'lichvoidi, between the Shmi, the Amshachs of the Eibishter, which come to Mahava the Olam. And Kvoidi, that level of Torah, is Alidei Maisa mitzvahs. Now you have Maisa, the doing of the mitzvahs. Voimer al zeh af asisiv, af, hifsika, the word af separates it. It's not Brasa v'yitzaytav asisiv, it's Brasa v'yitzaytav af, I also made it. L'hoidas ala flos eirech, how far the comparison or the value of Asiyah should move to Be'erech, it's not comparable l'maylam b'chinas Brasiv from the level of Brasiv. It's better to listen than a carbon. It's on a much higher level when you have the Maaseh mitzvahs. So anything you achieve b'shmi v'lichvoidi is at one level. Af asisiv is so much a higher level because you're much accomplishing what the Eibishter wanted. Vagam shadeh karbonis, through karbonis, and karbonis in this context is the idea of Torah l'chayra. So adeh karbonis. Mamshichin Gilu Erin Seif, we draw down a level of Erin Seif, right? Doing the mitzvahs just for listening. Like we said yesterday, you bring down this higher level, this Rusa the Liba, that's what says Mamush. Through being Mamshich, the Maisa mitzvahs, the Afasisif, Nimshach Tesefes Erba Torah, we add now on Torah, back to what we said earlier, we're trying to come to an understanding. What's this Ritzonei? How is it different than Maisei Brias Olam? So Davka to this Ritzonei Oisim Ritzonei Shal Makam. Shizal Alekim HaMitzvahs B'Kabal Samach Shmayim. Utchila. Tzarech Leis B'Chinas Ursa Deliba Shem Miskan Diskashos HaAtzmos, where you have this level of Ursa Deliba from Atzmos, connecting to Atzmos. V'Achagach Alekim HaMitzvahs B'Kabal Samach Shmayim. So now you're going to do the Kiyum HaMitzvahs from this level. V'Mamshichim B'Chinas Ratzon HaAtzit, the Pnimis HaAtzit Tzarech, we draw down this level in the world. V'Mamshichim Al Dizit B'Chinas Tesef Tzarech B'Torah. So even Torah now gets elevated to a higher level. And that's Oisim Ritzonei Shal Makam. We take the Eibishter's Ratz and we infuse it in the Olam. Which we spoke about in the previous Maamar, in the second Maamar, we said Eden Ein Leirasa. We said Eden B'chinas Tainug Atzmi Datzmi Tzef Shalom Ma'alam B'chinas Hagil de Gan Eden. So kind of what we're at now. Gan Eden is the idea of Shaykh La'Olas. Eden is Tainug Atzmi. The Gam and Neshama Tzagabois Bi Yosek HaAvis Meshabin Ol Vashalom. The highest Neshamas. B'ri Ba'alif Shalom, however high they traveled, B'kamokim Ein Leirasa B'chinas Oinug Atzmi Mamash. No eye could have seen this level of Atzmistic pleasure. The only way we can achieve it is by Maaseh mitzvahs. That's how we need the Chava mitzvahs Chama'oid, the Lechol Tichla, all levels of Tanugim, Hubchinas Oinig Animshech Mislavish Baratz in the Brias Olam, even the highest levels of the Eibishter's will that come into Brias Olam, Vigilate Tanug and Neshamas in Gan Eden, which are then revealed in Neshamas in Gan Eden. Reisi Kitzuk Vul. There is some limitation. Lefisho Bchinas He'oras V'Ispashtos Oinig Levad, because it's only shining and spreading pleasure. The mitzvahs are much wider. Not just the aura, which is spread out from the tainug, rather the tainug itself. Through the Maaseh mitzvahs, we have a nachas ruach lefonai. It's for the Eibishter nachas ruach, which is the idea of tainug atzmi. So now, so this kind of like sums up what we were saying up till now in the last few Maamorim, in many details and many different ifanim. But l'cha'oida in the move on, all of this is not understood. Haloi mitzvahs imchinas ratzon elyon. Mitzvahs we just said are ratzon elyon, the high will of the Eibishter, v'ratzon will, v'oinig and pleasure. Hem l'chura beis koiches michadim, the two specific koiches. Dimeyois. That Tainug mitzlabish b'ratzin, even though Tainug encloses itself in ratzin, because pleasure is achieved through the ratzin, the will to achieve it to get the pleasure. This is not the atzmistic, the essence Tainug of the Eibishter, not the essence really, the atzmistic, the singular Tainug of the Eibishter, the way it is. The way it is and itself. The kol yislabshus kayach echad bezlasim. When one kayach goes in another, b'chinas is pashtus levad. It's the way it spreads out, like b'chinas atzmishlei, not the way it is by itself. Even if we're going to say the will of mitzvahs encloses itself in pleasure, and is a b'chinas is pashtus levad, then it's just the spread, the spreading of the kayach of the tainug. It's like b'chinas tainug ha'atzim, but not the tainug itself. So, l'chayda, what is Ma'aseh mitzvahs achieve? Is it Ratzin or Tainuk, right? Is it doing the Ratzin Elyon or is it the Tainuk Elyon, right? We said there's no reason to this will. Not even a reason of pleasure or any not even a reason to have the pleasure, right? Or not even a reason of pleasure, right? Right? Is it Ratzin or is it Tainuk? We're saying now that Ratzin mitzvahs is infused or included with something else. The whole idea over here is Ratzin mitzvahs is Atzmos Mamash, and if it's Atzmos Mamash, how could it be combined with Tainuk? To understand this, we first have to understand the source of what Ratzin and Tainuk is. What is the difference between will and pleasure? There's two opposite things in pleasure and Ratzin. Pleasure, it's the highest inner part of the soul, a deep pleasure that you get that touches all the way to the top. There's nothing higher than pleasure. The will seems to be an external cloth for the tainuk, that the tainuk can enclose itself. Something which is spread out of the koyach tainuk, that kind of will express itself through the ratzin. If you don't have any pleasure in something, you do not awaken your will to it. You do not have any desire for it. But if you do have a pleasure in it, you're going to bend your will to draw yourself to it, to want it. And according to the level of how much pleasure you have in something, if it's deep and inner or external, that's going to cause the bending of your will, if it will be a lot or a little. Or it's internal or external. In general, someone only wants something that you're pleasuring. The same way the midas that come out through seichel. When they're not in the person beside himself, according to understand something, that awakens your midah to be kind to someone, because you now have seichel to do that, right? If that midah is developed from an understanding, midah of ava to the Eibishter, if it's developed from an understanding and the godless of the Eibishter, the midah will be leferech ava. If you understand that it's good, that is going to awaken the love and the will for that thing. But if the seichel doesn't awaken it, it's not going to awaken you. Also will, which is higher than midas, which is really the source in the inner part of the midas. It also comes from the seichel. This the idea which the level of tiferes from bina, which is again from Meichin, the Pnimis and Meichin becomes the Keser, the higher level of Zah. And Keser we said is Ratzin, Shubchinas are Ratzin, Pnimis and Midas, Shabbat and Seichel. So even the Pnimis and Midas, the Keser of Zah, which is the Ratzin of Zah, comes from Pnimis and Midas, Tiferes the Emo. So the same way it is in the person, Meichin Buratzin Shalom Alam HaSeichel, Shatoli B'Tainuk. So also this Ratzin, Einem is Erikim, Davka Kasher Yesh L'Tainuk B'Adavar. It will only awaken when you have pleasure in something. Will isn't always the same that way. Sometimes you do not want something. So we must say there's a higher power which causes the will to come. And what causes and forces the will to come? Hu das, the level of das. This is the das which is in the ear higher of the depths of the seichel, so it's higher than Meichin, which got some makamacher. Fine. But what is das? Das is kashros. Das is the idea of connection. You move yourself to eladavar, to something. You feel the thing. And this is through awakening some pleasure in the thing. So either what we're seeing over here is that Ratzin is kind of a step lower than Oynik. Oynik kind of controls, even at the highest level of Ratzin. For sure, Ratzin al pi seichel, Ratzin which comes through seichel, that's controlled midas of seichel. That's limited. Even the Pnimis of that we said is the Pnimis is still coming from Meichin. The Pnimis of Ratzin also comes from Meichin. But even higher than seichel, it's das, and das is the connection to the davar shemas anik, something that you have pleasure. The pleasure in the thing is talking in the internal part of your soul. On the other hand, it's only like spreading the external part of the tainuk, spreading out into this will. So the ratzin is again only a lavush to the tainuk. Even avarabo, now wants to get close to the kus. This is again the soul feels. You feel the You're now drawn to enclose yourself, to include yourself. What's the idea of feeling? You feel you feel the greatness of the Eibishter, va'afla and the wonderness, how you're separated or wondrous above all the worlds, va'afla atzmis, and atzmis the kafla, the way it is in itself, it's not like an external hafla which makes Erin safe higher. Be'etzem, it's removed from the world. But this also, it's a rotzin lelakus, but what achieves it is in hergish oinig belakus. It's the pleasure that you're going to feel in elakus. Ella, in this case, tainug be'helem, because all you feel is you're wanting, but the wanting is driven by the pnimistic tainug that's there. Even the helem one, according to this, tainug is the inner part of the ratzin. That is what the word, the synonym to ratzin called chefetz. V'ratzin, the will, which is enclosed, which is where the tainug is enclosed in it, right? It's enclosing the tainug. Falkein yachali is tainug below ratzin. There can be tainug without will. Tainug b'seichel midas gam below yisei ratzin. You don't have to awaken your will to have pleasure. Ve'ein ratzin. On the other hand, there is no will b'li tainug b'tchila, because the pnimius of ratzin is tainug, and if there's no pnimius, there's no chitzonius. Memela ratzin is only a lavush to tainug. The same way in tainug we have many madregas. Kachish b'ratzin mamash. Because again, what controls the ratzin is the tainug. You have a pleasure in doing something. It might be kelim noim, nice vessels, a binyan before, or a nice building, or a nice drawing, or a woven nice a piece of material. Or writing, nice clothes. There's a lower level of tainug of speech, which is more spiritual. When you're speaking avaraba with pleasure, when you give over seichel to your Talmud, which has much higher level of pleasure. But this pleasure of speech, the pleasure in thought, are more spiritual. We literally can see when you think something in your mind, and it gets included in a good understanding or a good settlement. It's resting by you very, very well, or it's lying by you, or it's present by you very, very well. So it's very pleasurable, this thought. More than the pleasure in speech. Which is called logic of the heart. It's more pleasure of speech. And also the oinig in thought, pleasure in thought, is higher than the pleasure of midos, of acting. Oinig shemamidos is legabe oinig shemeseichel, is a svara of hamtzah chadasha of oinig haseichel. Ad the oinig shemisnas is gdula till the highest pleasure. So sorry, let me read that line again. The oinig shemamidos legabe oinig shemeseichel be'ez svara v'hamtzah chadasha. That the oinig shemamidos is, I guess, lower than the pleasure in seichel when you have a new idea of oimek seichel and depths of seichel. So you kind of have machshava and mid higher than midas, and then you have seichel higher than midas. Ad the oinek shebisnas gdula, the highest level of oinek shebitzal gadol mekulan, like a melech when you have inner oinek by yourself. V'kachu gam kein erech hamshach asaratzim v'davar shemitzanig by. And comparable to this is the amount of will drawn in your pleasure. So your will in achieving any of these vary according to the level of oinik. It's the highest will. It's possible that your tainug in the lowest level of some nice doings or nice maisim, you're going to have more pleasure than the chachma. The chol hain yakar, even more than greatness or any great pleasure. There's some in the potential in the power of Maisa has more than the beginning of the Oinig HaRuchni. So it's kind of an idea over here where there is something in Maisa which has greater pleasure than the Oinig HaRuchni. But Vinishvi, we see over here al Kolpanim that Tainug is a much higher. Tainug kind of controls the Ratzin at every level of it, and Ratzin and it's the previous of Ratzin. And everything we've mentioned, even till now, in Avarab and Elakus, that's all from the Tainug, even though the Tainug might be Behelim. So we kind of broke away from what we were discussing about Ratzin, and we started saying we have to now understand what's Tainug and Ratzin. What we discussed till now is the Milas, not the Milas, or really the characteristics of Tainug and the way it kind of controls its Ratzin. Tomorrow's learning, we're going to discuss how Ratzin has a Mila of Tainug, and how really they both are somewhat connected in the Maaseh mitzvahs, and how this all leads back to the idea of Nachas Ruach Lefonai, the idea of Tainug, Shal Marti V'Nasir Ritzoini, the idea of Ratzin. A guten Tag, Naksiv V'Achsim Tova.